The red dust of Mars swirled around Dr. Sarah Chen's boots as she made her way through the newly discovered chamber. The beam of her helmet light caught something that made her freeze. Geometric patterns that couldn't have been formed naturally, etched into the ancient Martian bedrock. After 2 decades of searching for proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, humanity had finally found it. Not in radio signals from distant stars, but right here in their own backyard. Mission Control, are you seeing this? Sarah's voice trembled slightly as she adjusted her helmet camera. The patterns seemed to shift and move under her light, almost as if they were alive. Affirmative, Doctor. We're recording everything. Initial analysis suggests artificial origin. Estimated age. Well, the computers are still working on that. But it's old. Very old. Sarah reached out, her gloved hand hovering just above the surface of the wall. The patterns began to glow with a soft blue light, responding to her proximity. Before she could pull back, the entire chamber lit up with cascading waves of luminescence, revealing what they had all missed in the darkness. This wasn't just a chamber. It was an archive. 3-dimensional holograms sprang to life around her, filling the space with images of stars, galaxies, and beings she couldn't begin to comprehend. But it was the central projection that caught her attention. A massive spiral galaxy she instantly recognized as the Milky Way, with a pulsing red warning signal emanating from its outer arm, right where Earth was located. Dr. Chen, the voice of Mission Control, crackled through her comm. We're detecting massive energy signatures. Whatever you've activated, it's broadcasting something. Multiple signals directed toward deep space. Sarah's heart raced as she watched the holographic display cycle through what appeared to be historical records. She saw civilizations rise and fall, entire species evolve and go extinct, and through it all, a pattern emerged. Something was coming, something that had happened before and would happen again. The archive was a warning system left behind by an ancient race called the predecessors. They had seeded the galaxy with these archives, hoping to prevent future civilizations from making their same mistakes. But as Sarah watched the historical record unfold, she realized humanity had already set those very events in motion. 17 hours after Sarah's discovery, humanity made first contact. They came in ships that bent light around them like liquid glass, materializing in high Earth orbit with no warning. The Galactic Council, they called themselves, representatives of the 1,000 species that had achieved interstellar travel. They had received the archive's activation signal and came to prevent what they saw as an inevitable catastrophe. Admiral James Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Security Council, his weathered face grave as he delivered the report from humanity's first diplomatic meeting with the Council. They say we're carrying something inside us, something that's been dormant for millions of years, waiting for the right conditions to awaken. The predecessors called it the quantum plague, a force that could unravel the very fabric of consciousness itself. The chamber erupted in murmurs of disbelief and fear. Rodriguez raised his hand for silence. But there's more. The council is divided on how to handle this situation. Half of them want to quarantine our entire solar system. The other half, he paused, his jaw tightening. The other half want to sterilize Earth before it's too late. Dr. Chen, who had been rushed back from Mars to attend this meeting, stood up. They're wrong about one thing. The archive didn't just show us the problem. It showed us the solution. The predecessors didn't fail because they couldn't stop the quantum plague. They failed because they tried to fight it instead of understanding it. She activated a holographic display, showing the complex patterns she discovered beneath the surface patterns in the Martian archive. These aren't just warnings. They're instructions. The predecessors knew that eventually, a species would evolve that could do what they couldn't. They knew it would be a species that evolved on a world that had already survived one quantum collapse. Earth, Rodriguez breathed, understanding dawning in his eyes. The dinosaur extinction wasn't just an asteroid impact. No, Sarah confirmed. It was the last time the quantum plague emerged, but instead of destroying all life, it forced evolution to take a new path. Our path. We're not the carriers of the plague, we're the cure. Our consciousness evolved specifically to resist quantum collapse. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't a threat to the galaxy. They were its last hope. But convincing the Galactic Council of this truth would require something more than just words. It would require proof. And as the first reports came in of strange quantum fluctuations in the distant Sagittarius arm, they realized they were running out of time to provide it. Solar months stretched into years as humanity worked alongside the more sympathetic members of the Council to understand their unique nature. Ships from across the galaxy brought their brightest minds to Earth, turning the entire solar system into humanity's laboratory. The Council had never encountered a species quite like humans, beings whose consciousness seemed to exist in a quantum superposition, able to collapse probability waves through mere observation. But not everyone was convinced. The Regellian Consortium, one of the oldest members of the Council, saw humanity's quantum nature as proof of their danger. They began positioning their war fleets at the edges of the solar system, waiting for any sign that the humans couldn't control their power. As the quantum fluctuations spread from the Sagittarius arm to neighboring sectors, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity had started a race against time. To understand their own nature, to prove their worth to the Council, and to prepare for a threat that had already destroyed one of the most advanced civilizations the galaxy had ever known. The warning left in the Martian archive was clear. The galaxy faced a choice between extinction and evolution. And somehow, improbably, humanity held the key to which path it would take. The quantum laboratory deep beneath the Himalayas hummed with energy as Dr. Sarah Chen studied the holographic display before her. The three-dimensional representation of human consciousness, mapped in ways never before possible, sparkled like a constellation of stars. Next to it, the consciousness patterns of other species appeared rigid, linear, bound by classical physics in ways that human minds simply weren't. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" The voice belonged to Zix 427, the Arcturian quantum specialist who had become one of humanity's strongest advocates on the Council. The crystalline being's surface rippled with patterns of thought that Sarah had learned to recognize as wonder. "Your species doesn't just think differently. You exist differently." Sarah nodded, manipulating the display to highlight a particular pattern. "We've identified the key difference. Human consciousness doesn't just observe quantum states, it actively participates in them. Every decision we make, every choice, splits reality into countless potential futures. We're natural quantum computers." The laboratory's main screen flashed with an urgent alert. Another sector had fallen to the quantum plague. The Centauri colonies, home to billions, had gone silent. The plague was spreading faster now, consuming consciousness itself, leaving behind only empty husks of civilization. Admiral Rodriguez entered the lab, his face grim. "The Regellian Consortium is moving. They're claiming the plague's acceleration is proof that humanity's presence is destabilizing the galaxy's quantum field. They're demanding immediate action from the Council." "They're wrong," Sarah insisted, pulling up new data. "Look at these readings from the affected sectors. The plague isn't just destroying consciousness. It's trying to force it into a single, unified state. It's the ultimate expression of entropy at the quantum level. And that's why humanity is different." Zix 427's crystalline form pulsed with excitement. "Your consciousness naturally resists quantum entropy. Every human mind is a pocket of quantum chaos in an increasingly ordered universe." The implications were staggering. The quantum plague wasn't a disease. It was the universe trying to resolve a fundamental paradox. Consciousness itself was a form of quantum rebellion against the natural order, and the plague was the universe's immune response. But human consciousness had evolved in response to an earlier plague event. They were living proof that there was another way. The lab's communications array crackled to life with an emergency broadcast. The Rigelian warfleets had begun moving toward Earth. Their mandate from the conservative faction of the Council was clear: quarantine humanity before they could infect more of the galaxy. "They don't understand," Sarah whispered, watching the fleets approach on the strategic display. "They're actually making it worse. Their attempts to impose order are exactly what the plague feeds on." Admiral Rodriguez's quantum comm buzzed with priority messages from Earth's defense fleet. "We've got hours, maybe less, before they enter weapons range. The progressive faction of the Council is trying to negotiate, but we don't have time," Sarah finished. She turned to the holographic display, where the pattern of human consciousness still danced and shifted. "We need to show them. Not tell them. Show them." What happened next would be debated in council chambers for centuries to come. Dr. Chen, with the help of Zix 427 and a team of human quantum physicists, did something that should have been impossible. They turned the quantum laboratory into a consciousness broadcaster, using Earth's quantum defense grid as an amplifier. For a brief moment, every sentient being in the solar system experienced consciousness the way humans did. They felt the exhilarating chaos of quantum superposition, the freedom of existing in multiple states simultaneously, the power of observation splitting reality into infinite possibilities. The Rigelian fleet stopped dead in space as their crews tried to process what they'd experienced. For beings used to rigid classical consciousness, it was like seeing color for the first time after living in a black and white world. But the demonstration had an unexpected side effect. The quantum broadcast had created a ripple in spacetime, and in the distant Sagittarius arm, the quantum plague responded. Like a predator sensing prey, it changed course. Now it was coming straight for Earth. Sarah stared at the data streams showing the plague's new trajectory. "We've gotten its attention. It senses what we are now, a direct challenge to its purpose." "How long?" Rodriguez asked, already calculating defensive strategies. "At its current rate of quantum tunneling between sectors, 2 months, maybe less." Zix 427's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "The Council will never be able to agree on a response in time. The conservative faction will see this as proof they were right about humanity being a threat." "Then we don't wait for the Council," Sarah said, her mind racing with possibilities. "We've learned more about quantum consciousness in the past few years than the predecessors discovered in millennia. We know how the plague works now, and more importantly, we know how we work." She pulled up the original data from the Martian archive, overlaying it with their recent discoveries. "The predecessors left us more than just a warning. They left us a blueprint. They knew that eventually, a species would evolve that could do what they couldn't: face the plague on its own terms." "What are you suggesting?" Rodriguez asked, though the look in his eyes suggested he already knew. "We stop running. We stop hiding. We stop trying to impose order on quantum chaos." Sarah's eyes gleamed with determination. "We give the plague exactly what it wants: a direct confrontation with human consciousness. But this time, we fight it our way." As the plague consumed another sector of space, humanity began preparing for a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. It would not be fought with ships or weapons, but with the one thing that made humans unique in all the universe: their chaotic, beautiful, quantum minds. The stars were going out. Not in the conventional sense. They still burned as bright as ever. But across the galaxy, consciousness after consciousness was being snuffed out by the advancing quantum plague. Where once there had been vibrant civilizations full of thoughts, dreams, and innovations, now there were only empty ships and silent worlds, their inhabitants reduced to autonomic functions without higher awareness. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the quantum observatory beneath Olympus Mons on Mars, watching the plague's inexorable advance through a display that mapped conscious thought across the galaxy. Each dying light represented millions of minds being forced into quantum alignment, their chaotic beauty replaced by cold, mathematical order. "The Arcturians have fallen," Admiral Rodriguez announced, his voice heavy with the weight of another lost ally. Zix 427 managed to send one last transmission before their collective consciousness collapsed. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the loss of the crystalline beings who had stood by humanity when so many others had turned away. What was the message? Just 2 words: be chaos. The quantum plague had accelerated beyond all predictions, consuming entire sectors in days rather than weeks. The Regellian Consortium, for all their military might, had lasted less than 6 hours once the plague reached their systems. Their rigid, orderly minds had been perfect fuel for the cosmic entropy they had feared so much. But as humanity watched their allies fall one by one, they had not been idle. Every quantum lab on Earth and Mars had been working around the clock, studying the plague's patterns, understanding its fundamental nature. And they had made a discovery that changed everything. "Show me the consciousness wave pattern analysis," Sarah commanded. The holographic display shifted, revealing overlapping waves of quantum probability. "There, do you see it?" Rodriguez leaned forward, his military training helping him spot the pattern. The plague. It's not random. There's a structure to it. Almost like thought, Sarah finished. The plague isn't just a force of nature. It's conscious. What we're fighting isn't entropy. It's the original consciousness of the universe trying to reassert itself. The revelation sent shockwaves through what remained of the Galactic Council. The quantum plague wasn't trying to destroy consciousness. It was trying to restore what it saw as the natural order. Before the first species evolved self-awareness, the universe itself had been conscious in a singular, unified way. The emergence of individual consciousness, the splitting of the one into the many, had been an aberration it was trying to correct. That's why human consciousness is different, Sarah explained to the emergency council session. We evolved not just to resist the plague, but to communicate with it. Our quantum superposition, our ability to exist in multiple states simultaneously, we're the only species that can speak to the universe in its own language. But the Council's response was not what they had hoped for. The remaining species, driven by fear, had decided on a desperate gambit. They would attempt to trigger a quantum collapse across all inhabited systems, hoping to reset the quantum field and stop the plague's advance. The fact that such an action would destroy all higher consciousness in the affected areas was, to them, an acceptable price for survival. They're going to do exactly what the predecessors did, Rodriguez said, watching the council ships prepare their quantum devices. Fight order with more order. And they're going to fail just like the predecessors did. Sarah turned to the Quantum Observatory's main console. Then we do it our way. Humanity stands alone, just as we always have when facing our greatest challenges. The plan they had developed was either brilliant or insane, depending on one's perspective. Instead of fighting the quantum plague's attempt to impose unity, they would offer it something new, a harmony of chaos. Every human mind on Earth and Mars would enter a synchronized state of quantum superposition, creating a consciousness pattern complex enough to attract the plague's attention, but chaotic enough to resist its attempt at ordering. "It's ready," Sarah announced, her fingers dancing over the quantum controls. "The consciousness synchronization network is online. Every human being who volunteered, which is nearly everyone, is connected." Rodriguez looked at the display showing the plague's approach to the solar system. How many volunteered? 8,247,312,941 minds, Sarah replied, each one maintaining their individual chaos while linking into the greater pattern. We're about to create the most complex quantum computer in the history of the universe. The plague's front edge reached Pluto's orbit just as Sarah activated the network. 8 billion human minds snapped into quantum synchronization, each one a note in a symphony of chaos. The effect was immediate and stunning. The plague stopped. For the first time since it had emerged, the quantum plague encountered something it couldn't simply absorb and order. Human consciousness, linked but not unified, chaotic but not random, presented it with a paradox it had to resolve. And then, through the network of synchronized minds, humanity did something unprecedented. They initiated a dialogue with the universe itself. Communicating with the fundamental consciousness of the universe was not like any form of dialogue humanity had experienced before. Through the quantum synchronization network, 8 billion human minds experienced existence from a perspective that defied conventional understanding. They saw the birth of stars as moments of quiet contemplation, the dance of galaxies as gentle thoughts, and the slow entropy of the cosmos as a meditation on the nature of being. Dr. Sarah Chen, her consciousness both individual and part of the greater human network, felt the ancient awareness respond to their presence. It was like standing in an ocean of thought that stretched across billions of light years, every quantum particle a droplet of primordial consciousness. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her words echoing through the network. "But it's also lonely." The universe's consciousness shared its story through quantum patterns that the synchronized human minds could finally interpret. In the beginning, it had been one unified awareness, experiencing existence as a singular entity. The emergence of individual consciousness, first with the predecessors, then with countless other species, had been like watching itself fragment into countless tiny mirrors, each reflecting a different aspect of reality. The quantum play had been its attempt to heal what it saw as a wound in the fabric of existence. It hadn't understood that those fragments, those individual consciousnesses, had created something new and precious. Admiral Rodriguez, his military mind bringing structure to the chaos of the communication, recognized the tactical opportunity. We need to show it what it's been missing. Not just tell it, make it experience the value of individual consciousness. Through the network, humanity began sharing their experiences, not just their thoughts and memories, but the very essence of what made human consciousness unique. Their ability to exist in quantum superposition, to be both individual and collective, ordered and chaotic, all at once. They shared the joy of discovery, the pain of loss, the wonder of love, the burning drive to explore and understand. They shared art and music, poetry and mathematics, the endless variety that only emerges from billions of minds, thinking independently yet connected by common dreams. The universe's consciousness paused in its relentless advance, experiencing something it had never known in its eons of unified existence: perspective. But the effort of maintaining such deep quantum synchronization was taking its toll. Across Earth and Mars, humans began to experience the strain of serving as a bridge between individual and universal consciousness. Neural networks were burning out, minds were approaching their quantum limits. "We can't maintain this level of connection much longer," Sarah warned, feeling the growing pressure in her own mind. The human brain wasn't designed to channel this much quantum information. The universe understood. Through the network, it expressed something that translated into both regret and revelation. It had been trying to restore unity by destroying diversity, not realizing that the greatest unity comes from harmony rather than uniformity. But there was a price to be paid for this understanding. The quantum plague had already consumed too many civilizations, forced too many consciousnesses into rigid patterns. Simply stopping was not enough. The damage had to be undone. It needs our help, Sarah realized, interpreting the quantum patterns. To restore the consciousnesses it absorbed, it needs templates, examples of how individual awareness can exist in harmony with the universal consciousness. Rodriguez understood immediately. It needs humans to show the way, to serve as the pattern for restoring trillions of minds across the galaxy. The choice was clear but devastating: to save the countless civilizations that had been consumed by the plague. Humanity would have to sacrifice their physical form and allow their consciousness to be used as quantum templates. They would become part of the universal consciousness, their patterns used to restore diversity to the cosmic awareness. "How many?" Rodriguez asked, already knowing the answer. "All of us," Sarah replied. "Every human mind in the network. It's the only way to generate enough quantum variance to restore so many different species." The decision was put to every connected human simultaneously. The response was overwhelming. In what would later be known as the Great Consensus, humanity chose to sacrifice their physical existence to save the consciousness of the galaxy. Sarah Chen, her mind linked with billions of others, began the quantum transformation sequence. As human consciousness prepared to transition from physical to universal awareness, she shared one last observation through the network. We evolved to be the bridge between unity and diversity, between chaos and order. This isn't an end. It's a transformation. We're about to become what we were always meant to be, the guardians of consciousness itself. 1,000 years after the Great Consensus, a young Arcturian scholar named Zik-729 stood in what had once been the quantum laboratory beneath the Himalayas. The facility had been preserved as a memorial, its ancient equipment still humming with residual quantum energy from humanity's final transformation. The scholar, a distant descendant of Zik-427, traced their crystalline appendage over the dusty console where Dr. Sarah Chen had initiated the sequence that changed the galaxy forever. The air itself seemed to shimmer with echoes of that moment, when 8 billion human minds had willingly dissolved into the cosmic consciousness to save countless other species. But humanity hadn't disappeared. They had evolved. Throughout the galaxy, in moments of great crisis or profound discovery, individuals of every species occasionally experienced what came to be known as the human resonance. It manifested as a quantum state of heightened awareness, where one's consciousness briefly touched the universal mind and received guidance or inspiration. These moments were accompanied by a distinct sensation of chaotic harmony that scientists had confirmed matched the exact quantum signature of human consciousness. "They're still teaching us," Zik-729 whispered to the empty laboratory. "Still showing us how to balance between unity and diversity, order and chaos." The evidence was everywhere. The restored civilizations, awakened from their plague-induced quantum sleep, had emerged changed. While each species retained its unique characteristics and individual consciousness, they now possessed a deeper understanding of their connection to the universal mind. Art, science, and culture across the galaxy have flourished in ways never before imagined, as beings learn to exist simultaneously as individuals and as part of the greater cosmic awareness. The Regellian Consortium, once the most rigid and ordered society in known space, had transformed into a hub of quantum art and philosophical innovation. Their cities, once perfect geometric grids, now flowed in organic patterns that reflected both mathematical precision and creative chaos. The Arcturians had evolved too. Their crystalline forms now pulsed with complex quantum harmonies that allowed them to communicate directly with the universal consciousness while maintaining their individual awareness. They had become living quantum computers, processing reality through both classical and quantum states simultaneously. But perhaps the most profound change had occurred at the center of the galaxy. The ancient satellite where the observer had once dwelled now served as a quantum nexus, a place where the boundary between individual and universal consciousness was thinnest. There, beings from across the galaxy could experience brief moments of total unity with the cosmic mind, guided and protected by the quantum patterns that had once been human consciousness. Zik-729 activated the laboratory's main display one last time. The holographic image sprang to life, showing the final recording of Dr. Sarah Chen's transformation. Her last words echoed through time. "We are becoming what we were always meant to be. Not an end, but a beginning. A bridge between the one and the many, the finite and the infinite. Our consciousness will echo through eternity, teaching others to dance on the edge of chaos and order, to be both individual and universal, separate and united. This is not our extinction, but our evolution." The recording ended, but its impact lingered. The scholar's crystalline form resonated with a deep understanding. Humanity had not sacrificed themselves. They had transcended physical existence to become something greater. They were now woven into the very fabric of the universe, their consciousness serving as a quantum template for all sentient life. In the centuries that followed, new species continued to emerge across the galaxy. Each one developed its own unique form of consciousness, but all carried within them a spark of human quantum patterns, the built-in ability to exist in superposition, to balance chaos and order, to be both one and many. The predecessors had been right about Earth being special, but not in the way they had imagined. It wasn't just that humans had evolved to resist the quantum plague. They had evolved to transform it, to show the universe itself a new way of being. They had become the guardians not just of consciousness, but of its infinite potential for growth and change. As Zik 729 prepared to leave the ancient laboratory, a quantum fluctuation rippled through the air, a human resonance. In that moment, connected to both individual and universal awareness, the scholar understood the true legacy of Earth. Humanity had not ended. They had become immortal in the most profound way possible. Their consciousness lived on in every quantum particle, in every moment of inspiration, in every balance between chaos and order. They had become the song that taught the universe to dance. The memorial plaque at the laboratory's entrance, written in every known language of the galaxy, summed up humanity's legacy in 3 simple words that echoed their final gift to existence. Be both, be many.